Hello, and welcome to English with Cheri. I'm so happy you're here today. I'm Cheri, and this is the show where we talk about real, everyday English for real people. And with me today, as always, is my co-host, Nick. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Sherry. Great to be here. And hello to everyone listening, wherever you are in the world. We're really glad you joined us today.
So today's topic, okay, I think this one is going to really hit home for a lot of you. We are talking about the fear of looking stupid when you speak English. You know, that moment when you open your mouth and you think, oh no, what if I say something wrong? What if people laugh? What if I sound ridiculous?
Yeah, and the thing is, I think almost every English learner knows that feeling. It doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner or if you've been studying for years. That fear, it shows up for everyone.
Totally. And it can actually stop people from speaking at all. And that's the real problem, right? Because if you're too afraid to speak, you can't practice. And if you can't practice, you can't improve. It's kind of a loop.
Yeah, it really is. So today we're going to talk about why this fear happens, what kinds of mistakes people are most afraid to make, some really useful phrases you can use in tough moments, and most importantly, how to actually get past this fear and start speaking.
So, if you're an A1 or A2 learner, this episode is made for you. But honestly, I think even higher level learners will find something useful here too. So let's get into it.
Okay, so Sherry, let's start at the beginning. Why do people feel so afraid to speak English? I mean, where does this fear actually come from?
Well, I think the first reason is simple. People don't want to be judged. If you make a mistake in your own language, no big deal. But in English, it feels different. It feels more serious, more visible.
Right, and a lot of learners feel like their English has to be perfect before they can start speaking. So they keep saying, I'll start talking when I'm ready. But that moment never comes without practice, and practice means speaking before you feel ready.
And school plays a big part in this too. In a classroom, you get graded and you get corrected in front of other students. So mistakes start to feel bad. They feel like failure.
Yeah, that feeling is so hard to shake. People carry it for years, thinking, if I make a mistake, I fail. But real conversations are not tests. There are no grades, no one is keeping score.
That's so true. And it comes up in so many real situations. Where does this fear usually show up most for learners?
Oh, there are so many. I'd say the biggest one is ordering food at a restaurant or a coffee shop. You're at the counter, there are people behind you in line, and you have to speak right now. No time to prepare, no time to check a dictionary.
And I've heard this so many times. Learners just point at the menu, or they wait for someone else to order first, or they say same and hope for the best. And then they feel embarrassed about that too, which only makes the whole thing worse.
Or think about work. You're in a meeting, you have a good idea, but you're not sure how to say it in English. So you stay quiet. And someone else says the same thing 5 minutes later and gets all the credit.
Yes, that one is so painful. And it can affect people's jobs, their friendships, their confidence. So this fear has real consequences. And I want our listeners to know if this is you, you are not alone.
So let's get specific. What are the actual English mistakes that people are most afraid to make?
The number one fear is verb tenses. In English, there are many tenses, and for beginners, they can be really confusing. Past, present, future, all the different forms. Learners often mix them up.
Right, so instead of saying, I went to the store, someone might say, I go to the store yesterday. The past tense doesn't come out right.
Here's the truth. A native speaker will almost always understand you. You said yesterday, so they know it was the past. The grammar was a little off, but the message got through. But the learner hears it and suddenly freezes.
Right, they get flustered, and then they lose their train of thought completely. One small thing and the whole conversation falls apart in their head.
It's a chain reaction. One mistake leads to panic, and panic leads to silence.
What about forgetting a word? Because honestly, that happens to me too, and I'm a native speaker.
Oh, that's such a good point. Forgetting a word is so normal. You're in the middle of a sentence and suddenly the word is just gone. And for a learner, that moment feels like the whole world stopped.
And then there's pronunciation. Mispronouncing words is one of the biggest fears for A1 and A2 learners. You say a word, the other person looks confused, and you think, oh no, they don't understand me.
It really is. And here's something important. When a learner makes a mistake in English, most native speakers are not judging them at all. In fact, the first reaction is usually respect.
Totally. It's more like, wow, this person is speaking another language. That's impressive. Because most native English speakers, they only speak one language. So if you're learning English, you're already doing something they can't do.
That's a great way to think about it. And communication is about connection, not perfection. It's about being understood. So even if your verb tense is off, even if your pronunciation isn't perfect, if the message gets through, you communicated. That is the goal.
I love that framing. Communication is connection, not perfection. Okay, so let's give our listeners some real tools, some actual phrases they can use when they're in a tough moment.
Yes, because knowing what to say in a difficult moment, that changes everything. It turns panic into a plan. So let's start with the most common situation. You didn't understand what someone said.
Right, because that happens all the time. Someone speaks too fast or uses a word you don't know. So what do you say?
The simplest phrase is, "Sorry, can you say that again, please?" Short, polite, clear. Anyone can say it in any situation, a restaurant, a meeting, a phone call. Write it down and practice it tonight.
And it's totally normal to ask. Native speakers ask that all the time. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign that you're paying attention.
Another great phrase is, "Sorry, I didn't catch that." More casual and natural. Catch here means hear or understand. You'll hear native speakers use it all the time.
What about forgetting a word mid-sentence? Instead of stopping completely, keep going. Say, sorry, I forgot the word, but I mean, and then describe it using simpler words.
Right. If you forget the word umbrella, say, "It's the thing you use when it rains. You hold it over your head." The other person says, "Oh, an umbrella," and now you'll never forget that word again.
You could also say, how do you say, and describe it, or even use a word from your own language. The other person might figure it out. Either way, it shows you're trying, and people really appreciate that.
What about setting the scene a little bit, sort of letting the other person know up front that English is not your first language?
Yes, and you can say, I'm sorry, my English is not perfect, but, and then keep going. When you say that, the other person immediately slows down and becomes more patient. You've given them a little signal. Please be kind, I'm doing my best.
And here's one of my favorites. "I'm still learning English." It's honest and open. People almost always respond with kindness.
And you know what I really want to dig into now? The role of mistakes in learning. Because there's this belief out there, this really damaging one, that mistakes are the enemy, that making a mistake means you're failing.
But they're not. Mistakes are the lesson, literally how language learning works. If you never make a mistake, you never find out what to work on. You just stay comfortable and stuck.
Right. I think about a baby learning to walk. They fall down constantly, a lot. And they don't think, okay, I'm terrible at this, I should stop trying. They just get back up.
Falling is just part of the process, and it's the same with language. Every mistake is information, your brain figuring out the rules and getting stronger. It's not failure, it's growth.
The more mistakes you make, the faster you improve, as long as you keep going and don't let the mistake be the end of the conversation.
I've been teaching English for a long time, and the students who improve the fastest aren't the most careful ones. They're the ones who just speak, make lots of mistakes, and keep going anyway.
And that's what real bravery looks like. It doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and speaking anyway. That's real courage, and every one of our listeners is capable of that.
So let's get practical. What can our listeners actually do this week, starting today, to begin pushing through this fear?
Tip number 1, start small. Don't try to have big conversations on day 1. That's too much pressure. Start with tiny, simple interactions, the smallest possible thing.
So what does that look like in practice?
Go to a coffee shop and order in English. Just say, 1 coffee, please. 3 words. That's a real interaction and a real win. Or say thank you or have a good day. Small phrases, small victories. And every time you do it, you build a little more confidence.
What's tip number 2?
Tip 2, practice with someone you trust. A friend, a classmate, a study partner, even a mirror works. The goal is to get your mouth used to making English sounds out loud. Because there's a big difference between understanding English in your head and actually producing it with your voice.
So say things out loud, read a paragraph aloud, repeat sentences from shows you watch, even talk back to this podcast. If Nick says something you agree with, respond out loud. It sounds silly, but it genuinely works.
And tip number 3?
Tip 3, learn 3 new phrases every week. Not 300, just 3. Simple, everyday phrases like I'd like, or can I have, or where is the, or how much is this? These are phrases you can use in real life very quickly.
With phrases, you don't have to build a sentence from scratch. You just learn the whole chunk. Can I have a glass of water, please? You say it as one unit, no grammar thinking required. You just say the phrase.
That's so practical. And what about when the fear hits in the moment? You're standing at the counter, heart pounding. What do?
Cheri has a great trick for that moment. First, take one slow breath. It actually calms your nervous system. Then, remind yourself, the person in front of you wants to understand you. They are not waiting for you to fail. They are waiting for you to finish your sentence.
And remember, no one is going to judge you for trying. Most people think it's wonderful that you're speaking another language, so hold your head up, take that breath, and speak. Even if it's not perfect, even if you forget a word, speak.
Totally. And one more thing before we wrap up. Don't compare yourself to native speakers. They grew up with this language and had thousands of hours of exposure. You're learning as an adult in a second or third language. That's genuinely hard. And the fact that you're doing it at all, that's impressive.
Right. Compare yourself to where you were 6 months ago, not to a native speaker. That's the fair comparison.
And if 6 months ago you couldn't say anything, and today you can say, can I have a coffee please? And sorry, I didn't catch that. You have improved. That is real progress. Celebrate that.
I love that. Okay, let's wrap things up. Nick, what are your big takeaways from today?
Sure. First, the fear of looking stupid when speaking English is very common. You are not alone. Second, this fear often comes from school, where mistakes felt like failure. But mistakes are not failure. Mistakes are how you learn.
And the big idea behind all of it, communication is about connection, not perfection. You don't need perfect English to connect with people. You need courage and the willingness to try. If you're listening to this podcast, you already have that.
To everyone listening, thank you for being here and learning with us. You are doing something brave every day just by studying another language. We believe in you.
We really do. Keep going, keep practicing, make the mistakes, and keep speaking. We'll see you in the next episode of English with Cheri.
Take care of yourselves, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.